You know the line, right? One small step for man. It's iconic. But the real story, the story of how we even got there, that's a whole other thing. It's this absolutely nail-biting epic of, crazy innovation, unbelievable risk, and decisions made in the blink of an eye. So let's pull back the curtain on that famous footage and really dig into the incredible journey that got us to the moon.
Okay, so picture this. It's 1961. The Cold War is absolutely raging, and the Soviet Union has just landed a huge punch. They stunned the entire world by sending Yuri Gagarin into space, the first human ever. So what does President Kennedy do? He responds by throwing down this absolutely audacious challenge, a moonshot. And let's be clear, the goal here wasn't just about exploration, it was about winning.
And this is where it gets kind of crazy. To really grasp the scale of this challenge, you have to understand this. When Kennedy made that speech, the US had a grand total of, wait for it, 15 minutes of human spaceflight experience. 15! That's it! It's kind of like promising to run a marathon when you've just figured out how to crawl. It was almost unbelievable. So how do you even begin to do that? Well, getting to the moon wasn't about just building one big rocket. Not even close. NASA had to basically invent and then test a whole series of brand new, totally unproven spacecraft. Every single one was a critical step, like building this high-stakes stairway to the stars, piece by piece. And you can see just how careful and methodical they had to be. It was this really clear step-by-step plan. Step 1. Prove the main ship, the command module, can actually make the long journey. Step 2. Test the brand new lander, the lunar module. Then, and this is crucial, do a full dress rehearsal in orbit around the moon. And only then, after all that, would they even think about attempting the landing for real. Now, let's talk about that lander, the lunar module. It was, frankly, a terrifying piece of machinery. I mean, just listen to this quote from Jim McDivitt, the commander of Apollo 9, the guy who flew it for the very first time. He said it looked like it was made of cellophane and tinfoil held together with tape. This thing was the first true spaceship, designed only to fly in the vacuum of space. It was so incredibly fragile that if it failed to redock with the main ship, that was it. The astronauts inside had absolutely no way to get home. But, just when they thought they had the machines figured out, the moon itself decided to throw them a curveball. Seriously, scientists discovered these things they called mascons. They're basically these hidden pockets of super intense gravity in the moon's crust that could literally pull a landing craft dangerously off course. All of a sudden, that Apollo 10 dress rehearsal, it wasn't just practice anymore. It became absolutely essential for mapping these, gravitational minefields. Okay, so the technology is finally ready. It's time to pick the crew for this history-making attempt. But while NASA was focused on the stars, back here on Earth, the United States was a very different story. It was a nation just full of deep contrasts and really serious divisions. And the crew they picked? Man, it was like the perfect team. You had Neil Armstrong, this guy with an almost superhuman ability to stay cool under pressure. I mean, he proved that when his Gemini 8 capsule started spinning wildly out of control. Then there's Buzz Aldrin, an absolute genius when it came to orbital mechanics. And finally, Michael Collins, the command module pilot. You know what his greatest fear was? Having to fly home alone if the other two got stuck on the moon. So on launch day, you have almost 1 million people flooding into Cape Kennedy, right? All there to celebrate, to watch this incredible moment. But another group showed up that day, and they had a very, very different reason for being there. Protesters. They came to challenge the entire idea of the mission.
Their leader was Reverend Ralph Abernathy. He'd taken over for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and he put their argument in really stark, clear terms. He said it was inhuman to spend billions sending men to the moon while 1 in 5 Americans lacked proper food, shelter, and health care. Just think about that. How could a nation spend all this money on space when so many of its own people were suffering right here on Earth? It was this incredibly powerful question, just hanging in the air, right next to that giant rocket.
So, fast forward 4 days. All those debates back on Earth, they just faded into the background. Because now, Armstrong and Aldrin were in their lunar module, the Eagle. They were separating from the command ship, and the final, most dangerous part of the entire mission was just about to start.
So they're descending. Down in mission control, every single person is just glued to their screens. The whole world is holding its breath. And then, a master alarm just shrieks through the cockpit. Something was very, very wrong. The astronauts look at their display and this number is flashing, 1202. What does that even mean?
It was a program alarm, a code they had never seen in any of their training. And what it meant was that the guidance computer, the actual brain of their lander, was on the verge of failing.
So now, Flight Director Gene Kranz has literally seconds to make a call that could define the entire space program. Do they abort the landing right now, or do they push forward into total uncertainty? And the fate of the whole thing? It landed on the shoulders of his guidance officer, a 26-year-old kid named Steve Bales. And this is it. This is the call that saved the entire mission. Bales, under all that pressure, realized the computer wasn't actually crashing. It was just overloaded. It was being smart. It was dropping all the non-essential tasks so it could focus only on the landing. So he made the call. We're go on that flight. Kranz related to the crew. The landing was still on.
But of course, the moment they get through that crisis, another one pops up. Armstrong looks out his little window and sees where the autopilot is taking them, and his heart must have just stopped. They were headed straight for a massive crater, and it was filled with boulders the size of cars.
So, Armstrong grabs the controls, taking over from the computer. Back in Houston, they're helpless. All they can do is listen as the fuel gauge ticks down, down, down. And then a voice from Mission Control calls out the time remaining, 60 seconds. He had less than a minute of fuel left to find a safe place to land.
And with just seconds, literally seconds of fuel left, he did it. The Eagle had landed. Humanity was on the moon. But right after this absolutely monumental achievement, a totally new and maybe even more profound question started to bubble up.
You know the rest. Something like 600 million people were glued to their TVs, watching as Neil Armstrong deliver those immortal words. He and Aldrin spent more than 2 hours out there on the surface. And that moment, man, it just symbolized the absolute peak of human curiosity and our own ingenuity.
Of course, the crew came back to Earth as global heroes. There were parades all over the world. They had done it. They had answered Kennedy's challenge. But now what? With that main Cold War objective checked off the list, NASA and really the whole world had to ask a tough question. Why go back? What's the point now? And this is where you see the whole purpose of the mission start to shift. See, the goal wasn't just getting there anymore. It became about discovery, about science. Could this ancient, scarred, battered world actually hold the secrets to our own solar system's birth? And in doing that, could it tell us the story of how our own planet, Earth, came to be? That first giant leap was over, sure. But the real human journey of discovery, that was just getting started.